I'm so grateful. Oh, hi. I'm Amanda Freed, and I'm joining you from Santa Barbara, California, actually. I'm normally in studio at La Encantada at the core, and we've been so blessed to be able to show up and offer what we can to you in this time. And one of the amazing sort of gifts and blessings that have come from this time is this opportunity to be mobile. So I needed to leave town for a few days, and we were able to schedule this broadcast. So the same as always, we're talking about meditation matters because I believe it does. And the same as always, I love to have a dialogue with you and not just be talking at you or have a monologue. So if you have any questions or if you have any comments, and we'll be talking for a little bit today, no slides, just me. And then we'll do a meditation together. And then at any time, though, feel free to comment, not during the meditation, but feel free to comment and ask questions and share with us what your experience is. So we've talked about many matters pertaining to meditation. So this title was twofold for me. It's that meditation really does matter and has mattered in my life for many, many years. But also I wanted to sort of bring you in on many matters that have to do with meditation. And we talked about so many things over the past couple of weeks about the benefits of meditation and the brain changes that can happen. And so today I wanted to do some a little bit more practical practice with you and talk about some of the components of meditation, some of the key components of meditation. And that one today that we'll be focusing on is the breath, pranayama or pranayama. We see meditation as what we call an inside out type of practice, meaning that, so many times we think that meditation is just about what happens during your practice. And a lot of people get frustrated. 9/10 of the people that I ask in the beginning when I begin to teach them meditation is, I'll say, do you have a meditation practice? And 9 times out of 10 people say, well, I've tried. Well, to say that you've tried to meditate is also to imply that you could have failed at meditation, and that is simply not possible. So meditation is something that's natural for each of us, but it's also a skill that you kind of have to learn because we've been trained from early childhood to multitask. And we talked about this a little bit last week about multitasking and how the world kind of really requires that you multitask. And that when we sort of quiet down and try to focus on one thing, it's almost impossible for us because we've been taught that there's not a lot of value in that. We've been taught that there's value in being productive. We always have to be doing something or making something or creating something. And that's lovely. But at some point, we're exhausted and we really can't. It's not sustainable to try to do that all the time. And so the problem, quote unquote, comes in when we do try to now bring our focus, kind of hone it in, we don't have the skill anymore. We've sort of been taught out of that skill. And so, if you've had children or you were a child at some point, you can either remember your children or yourself that you would get so enveloped in something. Remember when you were a child and you would just play and you would get so enveloped in something that you might have heard your parents' voice outside, but you didn't even register it because you were so enamored and excited and engulfed in what you were doing. And then at some point, we are taught to do many things at once. You go to school and you've got 20 minutes of this or 20 minutes of that, and then you've got to rush, and you come home and you've got family time and you've got homework. At work, you've got phones ringing and computers going and people that want to talk to you. And so we've been entrained to do life in that way. So when we try to come back to that place of just single focus, it's very, very difficult. So when you quote unquote try to meditate, please give yourself a little grace and know that, yes, this is a natural condition of yours, that yes, you have the capability of being single focused, but it's been a long time until we've had the opportunity to do that. So if you're out of practice for being single focused, give yourself a little bit of time. Give yourself a chance to sort of relearn that again. And know that meditation is like a muscle, that unless we do it on a regular basis, we really don't sort of earn the chops to do it. And so one of the key components in this practice, and one of the best tools you can use, is the breath. The breath is always there for you. And it's a great way to, the first I call the breath the great barometer. The breath will tell you how you're feeling. So we're actually going to do a couple of different breathing practices today, and then we'll do a meditation. So the first thing you can do is, on a regular basis, kind of just use your breath as a friend, as an indicator of what's going on with you. You'll notice that when you get nervous, when you get stressed, we've all been stressed over the past 16 months more than we've ever been. You might notice that the breath is short and choppy. You kind of might notice that you can't even take a deep breath. That's why I won't say that I take objection, but sometimes teachers will say, the first thing they'll say, okay, now take a deep breath. And even that can give us a little pressure or discomfort. Did you ever have that happen? Like a teacher might say, okay, take a deep breath. And you're like, I can't even take a deep breath, or I don't know how to breathe. Even intentional breathing is a learned skill. So your natural breath, of course, is not a learned skill. You've been being breathed, and I love that concept, since the day you were born. And you will be breathed throughout your life until it's taken back away. In yoga, we say the Shakti, that's the female expression of the universal divine. We say in the beginning of your life, Shakti exhales and breathes into you. For the rest of your life, Shakti breathes you. And at the end of your life, she inhales and takes that breath back. It's just a very, very beautiful concept. And you don't have to be a yogi to love or accept that concept. And you don't have to be a yogi or a yoga practitioner to practice the breathing component of yoga. Yoga is not simply a physical practice. It's an approach to life. So when we say that we're going to do a pranayama or a breathing practice, it's actually practicing yoga. You can practice yoga without ever getting on a yoga mat. And so this component of yoga is so important, so beautiful, and can absolutely stand on its own. And so you can, at any time that you feel not even sure how you feel, you might feel stressed, or you might feel a little bit off, do check in with your breath. We don't have to always try to control it, but we might check and go, well, my breathing might be telling me that I'm stressed or angry or sad. And it's often that you maybe can't get a deeper breath. You can feel like your rib cage can't expand enough. Another thing that I see a lot with students is that they've been told that diaphragmatic breathing is good. So breathing down into the diaphragm or down into the belly is good. It is. However, then often I see people sort of forcing their breath, and you can see it as kind of missing the heart space. So we want to be able to be aware and not have to put on any artificial type of breathing or any efforted or really sort of work breath. So, like I said, I've seen that so many times, and I can tell when somebody's been in a lot of classes or a lot of had a lot of teaching, which is great, and then they're just sort of forcing that breath down into the abdomen, and you miss this whole area of expansion in the heart. And a lot of times, when life has shut us down in a way, when life has demanded that we do 100 things at once, or we do this to conform to society or something like that, what does suffer is the heart space. What does sort of shut down and clamp down, we see a lot of people with sort of rounded shoulders, or the back body seems kind of hard. And life does that sometimes. So we don't want to miss the opportunity to keep the heart space expanded because we think, oh, I just need to breathe into my diaphragm. So the most important thing really is that you be compassionate with yourself. That meditation is a practice that takes time, that breath work is a practice that takes time. And there's no, and I can't emphasize this enough, if I could write this in big neon letters, I would. There's no right or wrong to any of this. You can't do it wrong. You know, I've heard people go to yoga classes. I went with my beloved daughter-in-law recently, and she says, I'm going to go to yoga with you, but I'm really bad at it. And it breaks my heart to think that people think that they could be bad at yoga or they could be good at it, or same with breathing practices and meditation. You can't fail at this. You can't do it wrong. You can't be bad at it. There's always going to be benefit. You know, I do, personally, I do mantra work. So mantra, and we talked about a little bit about mantra meditation. So I do two different types. And one is that I'm silently repeating inside, and that's my private silent practice. But then there's something called a japa mantra practice, and that's when you sing out loud, and it's beautiful. You can do it by yourself, you can sing in groups. And so many times people, because it's Sanskrit, and people will say, what if I say the words wrong? Is it going to have the negative effect? Is it going to have the opposite effect? So no, never with yoga, with meditation, with breath work, it's not going to have the opposite effect. Just, it's about, where is your intention? Where's your heart? And if you're trying to do the right thing for yourself, please. And it's so hard. We are such judging machines. We always want to judge what we do as good or bad, right or wrong. So if you can just really give yourself that, hey, I showed up, I'm trying this, it's going to be of benefit to me, then, you know, skate through. And then one of my highest mentors, Krishna Das, you guys may have heard of him. He's actually a kirtan, a mantra, a yogic devotional song performer. He says, look, you do your practice, you live your life. And I'm so a proponent of that. I so support his idea. You know, we just do our practice and then we judge ourselves. He says, look, you go and do your practice and you live your life. So you sit down, you do your practice in the best way that you know how in the moment, and then you go and have your day. Yeah. So let's just work with the breath a little bit. So one of the first sort of avenues to the breath is a breath awareness. So we simply, and you can even do this with eyes open right now. So today we're going to do a breath awareness. And we'll just start with that. We'll do maybe 2 or 3 different types of breathing practices. So the breath awareness is literally that even with eyes open now, and you can sort of cast your gaze someplace that's pleasing to you. I have beautiful flowers outside. That you just begin to pay attention to your breath. We simply say breathe and know that you're breathing. Inhale and know that you're inhaling. Exhale and simply know that you're exhaling. So we breathe throughout the day and we never even think about it. So now we just become aware. If you feel like at this point you'd like the eyes to close down, you can feel free to allow your eyes to close down gently. Or you can keep them open. I have an easier time sometimes really paying attention to my breath if I close my eyes. Now know that your busy mind might try to step in. And if it does, it's fine. Notice that the mind is doing its mind thing. And then gently bring the attention back to the breath. If you remember what we talked about, we're not training the mind. We're not quieting the mind. We're just placing the attention someplace that's a little sweeter, someplace that we'd like it to be. Now you might be the person that hears the breath, and that's how you connect with and pay attention to the breath. You might be the person that feels the breath, and that's how you place your attention on the breath. You might be that visual learner that can actually see the breath as light coming in and going out. So take a moment to honor, how is it for you? How do you experience your breath? Notice the quality of the breath without judging it. Just notice. Is it soft and full? Is it short and choppy? Notice, when do you begin to even notice the breath? Do you notice it when it's coming in the nostrils? Do you notice the breath once it hits the back of your throat? Do you notice the breath as your collarbones are rising? When do I become aware of my inhale? For now, we'll just work with the inhale. When do I become aware of my inhale? It's just the first question we'll place. It's always sweet to place a question. It begs the attention. Now, once I've noticed where, I first become aware of the inhale. Then I can notice how far I can follow the inhale. With my awareness, can I follow the inhale to the back of the throat, to the chest cavity? Can I follow that breath down into my abdomen? Still working on the inhale now. And as your attention rests upon the inhale, does the quality of the breath change? Now we might shift the attention to the exhale. Noticing now, when do I first notice the inception of my exhale? Is it a little contraction in the abdomen? Is it the chest cavity falling slightly? Is it when the air comes warm over my top lip? When do I notice the inception of the exhale? The mind is a tricky thing. When I want to shift my awareness to the exhale, it might be resistant and stay on the inhale, and that's fine. In your own time, paying attention to the exhale, noticing the inception of your exhale. When do I notice the exhale begin? Does the exhale begin right on the heels of the inhale? Do they connect one to the next? Does my inhale lead directly into my exhale? Does the top of the exhale lead directly to the next inhale? Be careful that you're not adding any strain to the breath as you're paying attention to the breath. And then we're going to add one more component to this practice now. We're going to add a pause in between the breaths. So let's just first notice at the bottom, at the top of the inhale. So we'll inhale together. And just notice at the very top of your inhale, you can pause just for a millisecond. And then allow the exhale to begin. And at the bottom of that exhale, pause gently. So it's not a breath holding in any way. We're noticing the space in between the breaths. You continue in that way, just pausing very gently at the top of the inhale. And then allowing it to give way to the exhale. Pausing gently at the bottom of the exhale. Allowing it to give way to the inhale. Keep going. If you pause for longer than is comfortable, you might feel a little constriction or strain in the body. Remember, we're not holding the breath, just suspending, finding the space in between the breaths. Where it seems that nothing at all happens, but so much happens right there in the space in between the breaths. And that's really what meditation is, just a pause. In your day, in your life, in your moment. A gentle pause at the top of the inhale. A gentle pause in the bottom of the exhale. And then return to your natural breath. So you can let the focus go for a moment. And just return to your natural breath. I'm going to bring you out in a moment. And bring your awareness back to your body, fingers, toes, maybe wiggle, wrists or ankles can circle. I always like to check in with my neck. And then in your own time, gently allowing the eyes to open if you've closed them. We have some time. We're going to do some more practice. I just wanted to bring you out. That is a standalone practice. You could do that breath awareness practice for 5 minutes or 7 minutes, 10 minutes at any point in your day that you have time, or you can start your day in that way. And notice how you feel now. And if you have questions or comments, you want to share how that went for you, please don't hesitate. If you have a question, most people have the question. Were you able to focus on your breath? Did the breath change at all throughout that practice? So when you return now to your natural breath, did the breath change? Did your state of awareness change at all? Just checking in with how you're doing. You can feel free to comment in the chat box or come in and ask questions. So when you do check in with your breath at first and you go, wow, my breath might be a little short and choppy, I might be stressed, something may be going on, that's it. You just become aware of the breath. You watch the breath. I'm curious to know how many people hear the breath, how many are visual, how many feel it. I'm going to give you a little yogic breath practice now. And this is what we call an Ujjayi breath. And Jai, or Jay, is the word for victorious. It's a victorious breath. And I remember years ago when I first taught this, I had somebody ask me, what would, you guys are so calm, what would a yogi have to be victorious over? I'm like, oh my goodness, a whole lot of life stuff, other people's stuff, judgments, histories, stress. We do life like everybody else does. And so this is called an Ujjayi breath. It's a victorious breath. And what you can do is take your hand, and whichever hand you like, and just put it in front of your face. And so you'd be like you're fogging up a mirror. You know that sound you make? So we can inhale and then with an aspirant sound. So what you do is you create just a little constriction in the back of your throat to make that sound, that sound, and try that a couple of times. So we inhale through the nose maybe. And then we, it's fairly natural. We've all done that. You're trying to clean your glasses. All right, now I'll try to make that sound on the inhale. A little more challenging. We normally don't make that sound on the inhale, so we'll, in that way, it gets a little headier. And then you can release your hand down. And the part that gets a little trickier, but is fun, and again, takes time, takes practice, is doing that through your nose. So we can close the mouth now and make that aspirant sound as you inhale through your nose. So give it a try. So we'll close the mouth and go. You may be able to hear that over the mic or not. And as you exhale, you can allow the eyes to close down gently if that feels good for you. And we'll do just a couple of moments of Ujjayi breath. So we inhale with an aspirant sound. If you've got headphones in like me, you can hear it even better inside. So inhaling with an aspirant sound. And exhaling with that same sound. And go for a few rounds on your own. If you get lightheaded, then just go a little more gentle. Just go not quite so deep, just a little easier. And it's okay for this practice to get a little bit heavy. Don't worry, we'll do a more grounding breath before we sign off today. In the beginning, it may feel like you're not getting enough air in, and that's fine. You can always return to a normal breath or a natural breath in between. Sometimes we try to think about, oh, how much sound can I make this way? The important thing is we're not actually doing it with the voice, right? It's not a it's just the aspirant sound of the breath coming in and out, because we've created that little constriction in the back of the throat. We won't spend too long there. Tends to feel more in the chest a little bit. We'll just do 2 more rounds, and a round is a full inhale and a full exhale. If it gets to feel lightheaded, try to send the breath down deeper, down to the base of your spine. We'll do 1 more breath practice after this that will be more of a grounding practice. And then after that next exhale of Ujjayi breath, you can just gently return to your natural breath again. And then it's almost impossible not to do that. That's just, once you get the hang of it, it's just such a sweet, sort of delicious breath. And you can go ahead and gently open the eyes when you're ready. So we say that breath has sort of a taste and a flavor to it. And it's really a way to savor your breath. You know, the breath is not just something to keep you alive. In this practice, we get to really enjoy the breath. and experience it as a thing of its own. See, we've gotten to this place in society where we want more things. We want to acquire more things and even acquire more people and more experiences. But you can find joy in just the breath. It's pretty amazing. We see the breath as something of an experience. Now, I'm feeling a little light right now. So that's a breath that can get you maybe a little bit lightheaded, which is actually really good for spiritual practice. So that's a really nice breath to do before you meditate. So it's really good to sort of move you into a realm of a little bit less material and more of a spiritual practice. Each of these breaths or these breathing practices or pranayama practices, they do have an intent behind that. And so that one's a little more, let's get a little more sort of heady in a way. And so we're going to bring you down now, a little more grounding. So I'm going to there are counted breaths that people do lately. I know there have been, one of the doctors in town has really been working a lot with a counted breath. I think he does a 6, 7, 8. And so that's kind of a lot for people sometimes. And so a counted breath is great, and maybe we'll do that next week. But what I want to work with you now is a 3-part breath. It's really, really a beautiful breathing technique. So we'll do that for a couple of minutes. And this one you can either, if you have a place that you can lie down, it's really nice to lie down with this breath, or you can stay seated. What we're going to do is, and I usually try to mirror you, but I feel like it's important that we put the hands where they need to be. So don't get confused if I'm not mirroring you. So we're going to put the right hand on the low abdomen and the left hand on the heart, the center of the chest. And so I'm going to start you at a 2-part breathing to begin with, and then we're going to move into a 3-part breath. And so, like I said, if you have the availability to lie down, it's really sweet to lie down with this. Sitting is fine. You can allow yourself to close the eyes down. Actually, before you close your eyes down, just check in for a moment with how your body is feeling. A lot of us have stiffness in the body, especially when we're not 20 anymore. But I know that for me, just these breathing practices, my body feels relaxed. And in fact, after the first one, I was able to have a couple of adjustments in my neck. Some of us call these breathing practices the great chiropractor. So check in with your body right now. How does your body feel now that you've got some more breath working in that? So just check in. Like for me, mine feels better already. And so we'll see how we feel after this 3-part breath. So then you can go ahead and place the hands, right hand on your low abdomen, left hand in the center of the chest. You allow the eyes to close down and set your intention on breathing into that right hand. So you send the breath into your right hand, and then send that same breath up into the left hand and into the chest. And then on the exhale, we'll exhale from the top down, so from the collarbones, the top of the chest, and then down into the abdomen. It's a 3-part, but it connects. So we inhale into the right hand, sending that same breath up into the chest. And continue that breath, inhaling down into the low belly, sending the breath up into the heart. And again, if you have trouble getting that deeper breath, just the image of doing that, remember, just the intention. It helps to have your hand in the low abdomen so you can send your intention into your hand. Now, if you feel comfortable with this breath, we're going to inhale into that right hand, Then we'll send the breath up into the diaphragm, so just solar plexus area, and then sending the breath up into the chest. So 2 or 3 parts, whatever feels more intuitive for you. Exhaling from the top to the diaphragm to the low abdomen. Inhaling into that right hand. Sending the breath into the diaphragm and then up into the chest. Exhaling from the top down. Again, if this is the first time you're doing this, allow yourself to have a moment of uncertainty. Two parts or 3 parts. So inhaling from the bottom up. Exhaling from the top down. Notice if you're creating any tension around the shoulders. Feel a weightiness in your hips, allowing yourself to sink down into the seat beneath you. Allow this to be a grounding practice for you. If you're finding some ease or some natural flow to this breath, you can then send the breath into the back body as well. So we're not one-dimensional. Remember sending that breath first down into the abdomen, then into the diaphragm, and up into the chest. If the mind wanders, if the mind turns to judging what you're doing or making a decision, just gently bring the awareness back to the breath. Remembering to start with that right hand and then moving the breath up into the abdomen, into the solar plexus. Finally up into the heart center. Exhaling from the top down. The chest cavity falls gently. The diaphragm, the low abdomen may contract slightly. So not enough contraction that we're causing any tension. So eventually this breath flows beautifully on its own. And then in your own time, after the bottom of your next exhale, you can release the hands, just letting the hands fall down to the lap, or if you're laying down, you can keep your hands on your body, just returning to your natural breath. Just return your breath to the natural flow, or a new and improved version of your breath. Allow yourself to root down into the floor or the seat beneath you. And notice the difference in the quality now. The Ujjayi breath might have been a little bit heady, a little light. Now this feels more grounding. And anytime you might feel scattered or stressed, this is a beautiful breath practice to help you feel more grounded. And now in your own time, we'll begin to come back. So again, wiggling fingers or toes or both. Maybe circling wrists or ankles. Or allowing yourself to stretch in any way that feels comfortable for you. You can stretch the arms overhead. Like I said, I like to check in with my neck. And then this time when you blink the eyes open, maybe take a look around at your surroundings. You know, when we are stressed, we tend to not take in everything around us, or we miss little details or qualities of what surrounds us. And so when we come to a calmer place in the breath, the eyes open, the vision opens. Sometimes I notice my vision gets a little more blurry because I'm seeing those things that aren't really apparent. We talk about those hidden pictures. So when your eyes aren't quite focused on the objects in the room, they can focus on a quality, right? When you meet a person, rather than just seeing their outer expression, now you can see into them a little bit, because guess what? The inner part of you is revealed as well. So now's a good time if you want to ask any questions or share. I'm curious to know if you had, if you felt a difference between the 3 different breathing practices we did. So today we did simple breath awareness. And I say simple, although I know it's going to take time to practice it. We did a simple breath awareness. We did an Ujjayi, or victorious breath. And then we did a 3-part breath. So I'm curious to know if you had any sort of differences in the quality of how you felt during the breaths, or if you feel like, yeah, maybe I can do these on my own. Or would you like more practice with these in the coming week? We've got 1 more week to meet together in this way. Hi, Kate's here.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So Neelam said, I love this. Meditation is so healing. Thank you, TMC and Amanda Freed.
Oh,
That's all I've
thank
gotten
you,
so far, though.
Neelam. And I think that's my beloved Neelam, and I'm so glad you showed up today. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I find it healing too. And we'll definitely do some more of this next week. Kate, did you plan on being on camera today? No.
I did not, no. But here I am, so.
That's so I could get to
Okay.
be. That's so I could get to be in Santa Barbara.
I know. Lucky you.
Thank you for your contribution. So yeah. So well, it's great. And so next week I'll be back in studio. And as always, if you have any other questions or comments, you can send them along to us by email, or however we can support you. We're happy to support you. And these are recorded if you can't show up, tmcaz.com, or on our YouTube or Facebook. And we're coming at you in all the ways that we can. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Kate, for all your help. She's fantastic
always.
back there in studio. And thanks, you guys, for showing up. I hope you have a fantastic day.